You want to roll through that PowerPoint? Is that what we want to do?
Yep. So
all the kids have it?
I'm gonna share my screen.
Okay, cool.
So we'll get rolling here, guys. We got about 80 people or so on here. It looks like more are popping up, which is great. I have everybody muted right now, but you guys have the capability to unmute yourself if you have a question. Feel free to do that or raise your hand or throw. Better yet, it's always good if you hit the chat button to throw a question up in the chat, just so we can keep moving and keep rolling. And if you have questions, the easiest thing is generally just wait till the end. I'm sure someone else will have the same question. And, we're happy to address this stuff at the end and go through it. But I put together a PowerPoint presentation for you guys tonight so you can follow along. And then I will send out a PDF of the PowerPoint tomorrow, so you guys can have this in hand and keep it for resource. I will also send out a checklist for each of the grades, so each of you guys can see what you should be doing for each level, as well as some other information. So I'll send out a full recap tomorrow, so don't sweat it. You guys have the ability, if you want, to record this. If you're unfamiliar with Zoom, down at the bottom, you have the ability to record this if you'd like. That way you have record for it. But again, I will send you a YouTube link connected to our page with a passcode to access this as well. So totally your call. But I'm going to share my screen here. We'll get rolling. Coach Lee, feel free to jump in at any time, buddy.
Got it.
You see that, Maddie?
I see it.
All right, perfect. All right, here we go. So breaking this down, just real simple. I just put in here, just trust the process. I know it's crazy, especially right now with everything that's going on for some of the 21s and 22s and 23s, just a lot of unknowns. And, I think our track record is a proven one. And I feel like we have very good resources with the college coaches that we have, one on staff and two with connections. And, we just continue to give you guys the resources, and we're always here for you. And it's just, I know there's a lot and you see other kids around you committing and things like that. It's just trust the process, trust us and then do your part. I think that's the biggest thing that I put back on everybody is you have to do your part in order to make the process work. So how do we get there? So moving on here, maybe. All right, so when we talk about freshmen and sophomores, really the biggest thing is just focusing on success in the classroom, being a great teammate when you're with your high school, when you're with your club. We definitely like to see guys playing as many sports as possible. We understand that gets harder and harder, but, you're at a point in your life where, things are going to get stressful as you move forward into your junior year with this process. And, you need that time to be able to do the things you want to do, continue to be a kid and have a great time. Work on getting better every day, both in the classroom and on the field. Don't overstress about the process and really just have fun. When you get an opportunity, get out, visit colleges when you're able to. When we're on the road for tournaments, this is really a great opportunity for you to get out and see these schools. Maybe extend your trip with your family. Get out and visit as many of those schools, especially on the East Coast when you're out there. Moving on to your sophomore year, spring and summer, again, you want to be proactive. Goes back to doing your part. You want to reach out to schools and colleges. You want to follow up on any communication from any schools. I can't stress that enough. Guys get letters and emails and, they say, oh, coach, I got a pile of letters or I got all these emails and, oh, did you respond to them? Well, no, I didn't know I was supposed to, right? So if they're reaching out to you and they ask for questionnaires to be filled out, contact information, any of that stuff, don't let it sit in your inbox, right? Turn that around quickly and make sure you guys follow up on that. We recommend you guys get out, watch as much lacrosse as you can, especially right here in town. We're lucky to have Ohio State. Cleveland people have Cleveland State. Cincinnati, you're kind of in the middle where you can get to some great games here or down to Bellarmine. Get out and watch these games and look at them and really make an honest decision to yourself about where you fit in. and be realistic. If you think you're a D1 kid, a D2 kid, a D3 kid, be realistic and be honest if you see yourself out on that field during that gameplay. Again, go back to visiting schools, continue that process. You might be able to start making that decision. Do you want a bigger school, a small school? Look at the academics, the financials, how much it's going to cost you, how much, maybe academic money you could get. Do they offer scholarships? All of these things are important to look at. The atmosphere at the school, and then obviously location. Do you want to be far? Or do you want to be close to home? And then ultimately, we always tell kids, you have to make a decision if on that school, if you would be happy there without lacrosse. So if you were to get a, ending injury and you weren't able to play lacrosse anymore, would you still be happy at that school? So it's an important thing to take into consideration. Moving on to summer before your junior year, right? You want to get out, you want to be seen. So this is a time when the recruiting process will start ramping up. Get out on the summer club circuits. And again, being proactive, right? Get out, send emails to the schools prior to the events, let them know your number, the team that you play with, all of your schedule, the contact information for your club coaches, right? All of that stuff is very important. Being proactive and communicate that. And we'll talk more about it, but, CC your coaches on that communication so that they can follow up directly with the college coaches for you prior to these events. Showcase events, if you have the opportunity to go to those, great opportunity to get in front of these college coaches, a lot of times on a Friday night prior to an event. And then continue hitting camps, clinics, things like that, especially at schools that you may have interest in to, again, get in front of them. So if they offer any opportunities, over the summer, this is a great chance to get in there, especially if you start to limit down to some of the schools you really have interest in. Every opportunity is a unique one. Don't waste it. So I always tell my kids that play for me, every time you hit the field in the summer and the fall, that is your opportunity. It's almost like a job interview for you to get out there and sell yourself. And it's a very limited window. And it's one of those things where, unfortunately you can't take any time off. Every time you hit the field, you have to pretend that this might be the one shift that coach is there to watch you play. And you have to leave it, pedal to the floor and play your hardest at all times. Have a plan, and this is where we come in. We'll help you with this, obviously. Be selective with the events, and that's where we kind of choose events accordingly that put you in front of the most college coaches and the opportunities to be competitive, but also be seen. As a family, you have to plan out your events. So you want to plan out anything that you may be doing in additional to what we do at Resolute, meaning showcases, camps, clinics, all of those different things. For instance, this year with the National All-Star Games, those are things where you need to take all these into consideration. Plan your summer. Obviously, this summer's a little goofy, but plan your events, plan your schedule. Plan the opportunity to go and hit additional schools. All of those things. Be organized and again, just be proactive in doing your part. And then we're here to help ultimately, right? Ask questions as you have them. And this is a great opportunity for us to really put this stuff out there for you, so you have this as a guideline for you going forward. Fall of junior year, you're continuing unofficial visits, and again, unofficial visits is pretty much everything that is happening. Official visits are almost a thing of the past until kids are fully committed, where some schools will bring in the entire committed class. So again, when I put unofficial on there, it's just continuing visits on your own, getting out and seeing these schools. And then some schools will request you to come and do an overnight visit, where this is generally where you'll come in for a full day, spend the night, maybe do a morning with them, and then head out. And when you spend that night, this is generally on your own, out of pocket, in a hotel, a completely unofficial visit removed from the university. So they invite you in, they'll tour the school, you'll tour the facilities, you'll meet the coaches. A lot of times you'll have an opportunity to see practice or meet some of the players. So this is just a great opportunity for you to really get a feel for the team, get a feel for the players, listen to what the coach has to say. They'll generally bring you in the office, have a nice chat for a while. And then, you can analyze, is this something or a school where you see yourself fitting in, or, do you like the campus, location, all of those things. And then again, this is the opportunity where schools are going to start asking for transcripts, test scores. So when they ask for that stuff, again, don't not respond, right? Get them that information as soon as they ask for it. And then lastly, I have on here, people are going to start to commit, and we're seeing this, right? So don't get frustrated. Focus on you. Focus on the things that you're doing. Again, trust the process. Don't worry about what's happening around you, right? You can't compare yourself to every kid in the country, every other club in the country. Focus on you. And if you go through and you're doing the things that you're supposed to be doing, I promise you, you're going to get the opportunity to go on to a great school. Freezing up here. I'm sorry. So moving up to junior, senior years here, you want to lay out all the information that you have to this date. So you want to look at academics, right? Do you have any idea what you might want to major in? The financials is a big family talk, right? Are you getting scholarship money, opportunity for academic money? Are you going to have to take loans? Is this a state school versus a out-of-state school? All of these things that you're going to have to look at, and this is a very big decision, for the player and the family. So definitely consider that. Is this the right fit for me as a lacrosse player? Do you see yourself fitting in with that team? Also, if you go for a very high level school, you have to understand that you're taking a gamble that, you're going to have to work extremely hard to be a factor on that team. Are you okay with being on that team and maybe not starting for 3 years? Or do you want to go to a school where you have the opportunity to come in and play as a freshman? The intangibles, right? The location, the size of the school, all of those things that come into play there that are super, super important. You have to look at, would you be happy at it without lacrosse? So that was one thing I mentioned from the very beginning. And then look at all options, right? There's some amazing club schools or club teams that are at great schools where you can go get a great education, still play lacrosse, D1, D2, and D3. And we'll talk about the differences there as well here in a minute. Don't make decisions based on what others are doing. And then ultimately, you're going to have to just make that decision. There's going to come a point where, it's time to make that decision. So player profiles, Coach Lee, you want to take the lead on some of this?
Yeah. Your profiles, it's really important to, have a good understanding of a highlight video. I know I'm hitting on the last point, but I do believe that highlight videos are uber important these days, especially this summer. Getting your ability to play on film for all these college coaches. Now, I do believe on one of Coach Kelly's forward slides, you'll see that we like to review your video before you post it. We have some things that we want to make sure that, your best plays are on there, some content information, which, we want to make sure it's on there. So we'll get to that point later, but, some of the other bullet points that he has on there, the GPA test scores and transcripts, besides the highlight video, obviously GPA really, really important. Some of the guys that when we talk about recruiting one-on-one is, how many, we always talk about Division I first, right? Everybody's dream to play Division I lacrosse. Well, there's only about 75 teams. Average class is about 10, 11 guys. So we're talking about 750 guys, 760 guys across the country going to be able to play Division I lacrosse. Really, really the elite of the elite. Hard to get a scholarship. We don't sugarcoat that here at Resolute, but but we are giving you the opportunity to play in front of the college coaches. So a differentiator would be, maintain a high GPA. You're going to be compared to kids in your respective positions across the country against kids from Canada. And they're going to need some tiebreakers, and tiebreakers are going to come in the form of your GPA, your test scores, transcripts. They just want to see what kind of classes you're taking and that you're doing well. But, test scores, ACT, that's a big, big differentiator. I know it's out of 36, and everyone's schools and abilities are all different, but the higher the better. Obviously 30s put you in a new category. 30 or above gets you to it puts you in a different level compared to your peers across the country in your position. So, I urge you to try and study hard, take the test as early as possible. This way you have a baseline, and this way what you're going to need to improve on as you go through years in high school. Yeah, there we go. So when we're emailing the college coaches, we want to make sure that we're there are always 3 paid coaches per school on a Division I level. Could be a couple more or less on the D2 and D3 level, but we want to make sure we hit at least the 3 coaches. You know, the first head coach, and then second and third the 2 assistant coaches. We want to make sure that we are concise in our email. Introduce yourself, you know, and don't blind copy all the coaches. Make each one unique, not completely unique, but don't copy and paste everything to like 55 different schools. You might make a mistake, and you might want to send an email to Michigan and you're winding up sending it to Yale, and that might not make you look very good on as far as communication wise. What we got here? Timeline for contact with the coaches, always a good idea. Like right now would be the prime time if this was a normal time frame, if it wasn't for the coronavirus, that we would be recommending that you guys start pumping out emails to all the college coaches that you're interested in, with video and current GPA, and a highlight video. It's good to let them see you before you actually they get to see you at a tournament. Let's see what else. Second bullet point on the fourth one, after summer follow-up, pretty important. You want to just touch base with them because they probably have watched about 10,000 kids, and you're going to want to send a similar email with a follow-up video of your highlights from the summer. So, you know, we urge you to try and start making videos when you're a freshman. It'll only get easier if you start early. But if you decide to just try to jam in trying to make a video going into your junior year, it's going to get pretty tough. What else we got?
That's
Fall
really it.
event.
And then just
Yeah,
reaching out, just touching base prior to the spring season, just to touch base with those guys. A lot of times it's just a opportunity for you to reach out, have something to talk about. So that timeline was directly from Coach German up at Cleveland State. So some good insight there from him. I might have jumped that. There we go. So again, just to follow up here on what Coach is saying about the highlight films, and Maddie jump back in here, but absolutely everyone needs to have a highlight film. Huge piece for college coaches. When you put that together, you send that to us and we will upload it to our YouTube channel. So we've been in the process right now of continuing to upload to all the 21s. And as the 22s start rolling in, we will add them on there. This is an opportunity for you to sell yourself. And a lot of times this might be the first opportunity for them to get a feel for the type of person and the type of kid you are. So music choice, really important here, right? You don't want to put something on there that's going to give the wrong impression of you. We recommend keep it simple. A lot of times something without lyrics, coaches don't really care what it is. They're there to watch you, but you don't want to do yourself a disservice and have something swear words and things like that. It should be a no-brainer for you, but you'd be surprised at what what we see out there. So be smart there. You want to have all your important contacts on there. All of your information, your personal information, and obviously your club contact information as well. This is an opportunity where a lot of times people will put up their GPAs and test scores if you have them as you advance through the process, and things like that. So things that you want to put, again, just kind of talking about your name, your grad year, what season you're in, your highlights, maybe any accolades you may have from the seasons, things like that. And then important thing is you want to make sure it shows up when a coach Googles you or searches for you on YouTube. Super important that you are accessible that way for them. You don't want to have too much information on there, right? Keep the video short and sweet, 3 to 5 minutes max. And with that too, the last thing a college coach wants to see is a guy catching a ball and shooting it and scoring a goal over and over and over again, right? Those are a dime a dozen. Anybody can catch a ball and shoot it. What they want to look for in videos are hard-nosed plays. So if you're a midi, they want to see you playing defense. They want to see you on wings. They want to see hard ground balls. They want to see you running the field. Defensemen, they want to see you on ball. They want to watch you off ball. They want to watch you man down. They want to see all of these things, how you run the field with the ball in your stick. As an attackman, right, they want to see how you ride. They want to see you beat a long stick, right? They will actually want to see you handling the ball and feeding. These are things that are really important. And then the big time hustle plays. Those are the things that you want to highlight in your film, not you catching a pass and scoring a goal. That shows them absolutely nothing about your character and absolutely nothing about your skill set. So just take that in consideration when you guys are doing these and putting your films together, right? It's not about that ending moment. It's about the things leading up to it. So make sure you keep that in mind when you're doing this. And then recruiting services. I know there's people that offer to do videos. That's great if you want them. But as far as like the other services out there, it's not really necessary at this point. I think our plan is very strong and proven, and we have all the resources here. Obviously you have the freedom to do whatever you'd like there. If you don't have the ability to do your own video, that might be recommended at that point. But for the additional services, I would say that's probably not necessary. And like Coach Lee said, you want to start building that film out as a freshman. So I don't know, Matt, you got anything you want to add there on film?
I do. The film, a lot of you guys in our program, which is great, dual multi-sport athletes. It's okay to show you playing football, wrestling, 1 or 2 clips here and there to show how dynamic you are. Box, we have plenty of opportunities to showcase your other skills as well. We've got a lot of football kids on the team in our program, and I always like you guys to be able to show maybe a couple of runs or your approaches to a tackle. Just to show your dynamic ability as an athlete. So keep that in mind. If you need to fill up some space, that's not a bad idea.
Good point. So just some things on here that college coach, what they're looking for in a player. And again, this is some stuff that came directly from Coach German up at Cleveland State. So this is coming from a Division I head coach. And he said the number one thing that they look for is, can you help the team win, right? So when they look at you as a player, it's where do you fit in with their program, and how do they see you helping this team win? So again, it goes back to kind of analyzing where you fit in and just doing that moment of self-reflection to kind of see if you fit in with that club or program and how that would work. Academically qualified. So this is an absolute make or break for recruits. So this goes back to when you start as a freshman all the way through to your senior year, you can't let up for a second. So you need to work your butt off from day one when you're in high school and, put the grades together, because if you don't have the grades, they're absolutely just going to move past you immediately. And that's just, there's nothing that anybody can do at that point. You could be the best player in the world. If you have a 1 point whatever GPA or 2 whatever, no one's going to look at you. And especially if you have aspirations of going to an Ivy League school or a top academic program, those are the first things that they're going to ask us, even before they talk to or want to see your highlight film or even watch you play. If we're reaching out and saying, hey, we have a kid that's qualified for your school, they're going to say, well, what kind of GPA does he have? What are his test scores? Send me his transcript. So very important there. And then ultimately, just your attributes as a player. Are you a good teammate? Are you coachable? Will you be an impact player for them? Are you competitive with the will to win? Are you hardworking and your personality off the field? All things that these guys come to look for at these events when they're recruiting you. Those are the things they're looking for. Again, not the guy that's catching a ball and scoring on the back door. All of those things are the attributes that they look for in players when they're going through this process.
Anthony, you know what's a good example is your Caleb Newman example.
Oh yeah, so it's a great point. So I was at an event with a player who came through our program. It's actually an amazing story. He came through our program late. Added him he was on our regional team, and then the player ended up getting injured. Ended up moving him up to our Ohio team, and just had a phenomenal season for us in the summer, and ended up making the Under Armour team. And he came out with me in the summer, and he was there, and we were at the event, and I was talking to the Maryland coach, and he was asking me about some players, and I was giving him a rundown on some guys, and all of a sudden he looks over and he says, well, who's that guy? And it was a kid that was over on the sideline by himself. Everyone had already left the field. He was over there picking up cups and breaking down a tent and threw it on his shoulder, and he was walking over to the next game, and it was one of our guys. It was Caleb Newman. And, that was a defining moment for him that showed his character and the kind of kid that he is. And he immediately said, well, that's one of the guys you mentioned on the name or on your list. That's a kid that I am recruiting, and that's a kid that I'm going to go after. And as it turns out, he was recruited very heavily by Maryland as well as Cornell, and he's actually going to Cornell next year. He ended up going off and PGing for a year had a great experience doing that to recover from an injury, and he'll be an incoming freshman at Cornell next year. So, you never know who's looking and who's watching you, and those are all the things that they look for. So I can't stress that enough. So great point there, Matt. Breaking this down, this is where things get a little deeper here. So, everybody says, oh yeah, I want to play college lacrosse. I want to be an athlete. I want to be a D1 athlete, D3 athlete. Well, to truly understand it, you have to see it sometimes and understand what a commitment that is. So when you get there and you get to school, it's a whole nother world than what you guys are used to in high school. So when you get to campus that first week in September, right, you kick things off right away, and you're going all the way through till October, and you're generally having a workout session, your class time's in there, and then your practice time. So this is obviously just a mock schedule that I put together. Sometimes lifting and practice times will be together. So, you think about your travel to and from, getting there early, being there afterwards. This is generally a 4.5 hour window, and then your travel time and walk time, depending on the size of the campus. So it's a big commitment in the fall, a few days a week plus your additional classes, and then a Saturday practice as well for a lot of schools. And then the additional things that the normal students have. In addition to that, as an athlete, you're going to have your mandatory study tables. A lot of schools, they're going to force you to do, 8 to 10 hours a week of study time. You're going to do community service with your team. That'll probably be on that Sunday or Saturday after practice. And then a lot of times students are going to need to spend extra time with tutors and then additional time on their own outside of the classroom. So pretty big commitment right away. The second you hit campus, that's being a student athlete kind of takes it to a new level for you. Apologize, my computer's running a little slow here. There we go. And to continue on in the fall, so late fall, so the end of October until December, you have 8 hours a week that you're allowed to be with your team. A lot of times this focus is just going to be on the lifting conditioning aspect of this, as well as the classes, and then the opportunity to practice 1 day per week with your team. And then again, those additional items in there, and additional time spent on other things. And that'll basically take us through the winter time. And then once you hit spring, this is where things are going to ramp up significantly for you. You're going to have your classes during the day. A lot of times school teams will practice at night. So this will either be one way or the other, where you practice early in the morning and go to class all day, or, classes during the day and then practice in the evening. And then, you're ramping up with travel time for games during the season. So you're going to be traveling on Fridays and traveling back on Sundays and all that stuff. So a lot of bus trips, a lot of flights, and then factor in again your study halls, time with tutors. And this is pretty much the same process for every division. So once you hit the springtime, everything is pretty uniform regardless of what division you're at when you're full swing with your seasons here. So talking about it, a lot of people always ask questions, what is the difference between the divisions? So regardless of where you end up, all divisions are going to be playing super high level. There's no right or wrong decision. It's about finding the right fit for you. So that includes both the school and the lacrosse aspect. So if you want a smaller school, there's a good chance that it's going to end up being a D2 or D3 school. If you want a bigger school, those are generally the D1 schools. The divisions are based on the following items. So funding, which is the scholarships and the financial aid offered by the universities or colleges, the playing seasons, the different rules that they have, and different academic standards. So all of those things come into play, of how new the school is and how long the program's been around, all of those things. And when you get to D3, a lot of people don't realize this, but they actually don't play year round, and they're only allowed 16 practices total in the fall. So their fall is a lot more toned down than a Division I and a Division II school. So if that is a priority, if academics are the absolute number one priority, sometimes that is a great fit for kids because they don't have that, going to practice and working out all that much in the fall, where it allows them to focus on the schoolwork. And then once spring hits, they're kind of full blown into the season. And then other options on here too. If you can't make that decision right out of high school, you can go to prep school. Like I even mentioned with that Caleb Newman example, had a great experience for a year at a prep school, and he's basically coming in with an extra level or extra year of experience. He's healthy. and he's ready to go, and he's almost a year older than everybody coming in as a freshman. So it's a unique opportunity there. Or some kids will go off and play junior college for 2 years. Coach Schroeder is a prime example of that. He went to Onondaga for 2 years. He won a national championship there, transferred into Ohio State, and finished his last 2 years at Ohio State. So opportunities there. Generally, that's a lot of times for players that, if you're struggling academically, that gives you a window to be able to pick your grades up. So it could be an entire different conversation, on a one-off note. But talking about how to write them or how to make that right decision, everyone's different. You want to find the right fit for you. Priority, is it school or lacrosse or both? The location of the school, does it have your major? What's the program history? Is it up and coming or is it established, right? If it's a more established program, especially at the D1 level, you're going to have to realize that you might not play until your junior, senior year. If it's a new up and coming program, you might have that opportunity to be a 4-year starter. What's the team dynamic, the mission of the program? What's the coach's interest in you? Where do you fit in? Is he telling you you're his number 1 or number 2 midi or defenseman or whatever it is? Or are you barely making the list, right? You have to be honest and assess the situation there. Going back to the financials, the planning with you and your family. And then I think a big one is just your gut feeling. Does it feel right? Is this where you could see yourself living the next 4 years and possibly after that, and how that all fits in with you and your family? Recruiting the Resolute way. So these are really important things. So these are the things that are non-negotiables, right? When a coach calls you or emails you, right, regardless of the interest, respond to that coach, and do it in a timely manner. Fill out and return all the questionnaires. Be open and honest during the process with both you and the coaches. Do things yourself. This is a very important one. Don't let your parents lead this process, right? If you truly want to play at the next level, you better be writing all of those letters. You better be filling out those questionnaires on your own. College coaches don't want to talk. They don't want to hear from your parents when it comes to that stuff. Fill the stuff out. Let them know the type of person you are, and lead the way, right? College coaches can see right through stuff if parents are writing it versus if a player is writing it. So own this, and this is a big boy opportunity for you guys, and take ownership in that. When you make your final decision, let us know immediately, please, right? And the huge part of this is calling all of the schools that are recruiting you and letting them know that you made a decision to go to a different school. So no emails. This is again a major non-negotiable, and it goes back to being the right character person here. I know it's a hard phone call. You call those guys, you thank them, and they're going to understand. It's just part of the deal. But that is a non-negotiable. And then don't make it public anywhere until these phone calls are made, right? The last thing you want to do is have, all of these schools recruiting you and they find out, they see it on the internet. Again, it goes back to the character thing. And we know you get excited when you make that decision, right? And that's why I say, let us know immediately, and we can walk you through that process and the next steps so that things can be done the right way. Coach Lee, anything you want to chime in there?
Yeah, one of the things that I use an example when I'm talking about our recruiting is, and we touched on it, the response. We've had some players get recruited at one school for another. You just don't know where these guys are going to end up coaching. Especially the assistant coaches tend to bounce around for a little bit until they find a home. And one example I like to use is, Coach Sheridan himself. He started out at Princeton, moved his way out to Denver. Then he winds up being the head coach at Cleveland State for a couple of years. And now all of a sudden he's at Ohio State. So if you failed to respond to him back in the time he was at Denver, if you were young, when there was recruiting was still going on at an early age, college coaches tend to remember those things. And now all of a sudden he's at Cleveland State. You have interest there, but you didn't respond to him at Denver. And now all of a sudden, he's at Ohio State. So it's a small circle in the world of lacrosse, and you just never know where coaches might wind up. So if you do the right thing, you won't get burned in the long run. So that's one of my examples to make sure you guys understand that, responding in a timely manner is key.
Great point there, Coach. Just put on here 2 different slides here for you. So the wrong questions asked and the right questions asked. I think you guys have an opportunity to look through these a little bit. Just be smart with the stuff you're asking them. Make sure that your focus is about the important things. Not things like this. This should be pretty self-explanatory. They don't want to hear if you're going to start as a freshman. Are you promised your favorite number? Do they come and see if you're in school? What's the minimum GPA to get in there? Do we work out in the off season? How much scholarship money am I getting, and how much free stuff do we get? Right? Those are all big no-nos during this process. Right? Generally, let the college coaches be the ones to ask questions, and then when you have the opportunity, you ask the right questions. And that's this next slide here. And it's, where do you fit in with the recruiting class? Ask program goals. What are the goals of the coaches here? What's the mission of this program? Where do you see this program in the next 4 or 5 years? Ask a lot of questions when it comes to the academics of the school, the majors offered, the type of programming that they're going to have in place to help you. If there's tutors, if there's study tables, all of those things, right? There's two key words there. It's you're a student and an athlete, and the student part, in all of our opinions, is the most important part. So make sure that you get those questions asked up front regarding anything with the school. Do you live with another lacrosse player in the dorms freshman year, right? So it's important to know, are you going to be with a teammate, or are they going to put you with somebody else? What's the typical schedule for their program, right? So you want to make sure that they walk you through, kind of like I did a mock-up one for you. Find out what that school is, and you might make that decision if you like to practice first and then go to school, or you like to go to school first and then practice, right? That's an important thing, because that's going to be your life for the next 4 years. What do all your recruits need to work on and focus on, right? Again, pick the coach's brain and find out what they're looking for in the players that they're recruiting, and then what things they like to see in your recruits. So that goes back to, playing multiple sports, or, all of those things, GPA, and just the attributes, the top 3 attributes that they're looking for in their players. And then major things here is just things to remember: being proactive. You're recruiting them as much as they're recruiting you. So it goes back to asking those questions, get out, get the information to them. It's a two-way street, and they have just as much of a right to walk away from you as you do from them. And something I will say, I actually heard a college coach say this, where, they're recruiting parents as much as they're recruiting the players. So, that's something to keep in mind. And parents, you guys are just on the hook for this as much as the players. So all of the things that you say and all the things that come out of your mouth and the questions that you ask during this process, they are taking that into account. So make sure that you're doing the right things, and you are setting your son on the right path to be successful. Do your research, get on the websites, get out and visit the campuses, meet the staff, ask questions and all the opportunities you have. Find the best blend of academics and lacrosse is always the recommendation. Keep your options open during the process, right? Don't get stuck on, choosing a school and thinking that that's going to be it for you. Going back to when the process has changed drastically since I was in high school. But when I started the process, I thought I wanted to go to a small school, and I was looking at different small schools, and I was kind of committed to that. And I went and visited a few places and realized right away that that wasn't what I wanted. And I ended up going to the other end of the spectrum and going to the biggest school in the country at Ohio State. So, keep your options open and continue to do your research and pursue things until that final decision is made. Be mature in all your actions during the process. And, I know a big part that Coach Lee harps on all the time is, think about the things that you're doing, think about the things you're saying and posting on social media. If you might think it's harmless and fun, you're having a chat with your buddies, but if you put out something stupid and coaches see it, that I guarantee it, not that it will affect how things go for you in the recruiting process. So be very smart with that. And, if all you guys are in high school now, that is a major, major thing that you need to look for. And I promise you, every coach that's going to be recruiting you is going to go on and they're going to look at your profiles and look at that. That'll be one of the first things that they do. And then be confident in your final decision. So whatever you make that final decision, be confident, feel good about it. You do all these things leading up to that point. You should feel very comfortable with it and not worry about what's happening around you or what anyone else is there for. And then ultimately, guys, we're here for you. So ask us questions, do your part in the process, work with your club team coaches. So if you're in Cleveland or Cincinnati, Columbus, work with those guys, and then also use, Coach Lee and myself and Coach Bice as resources to help with that process. And again, I'll have sheets kind of breaking a lot of this down for you that I'll email out tomorrow with the checkpoints for you just to make sure that you guys are following the right process. And then send your videos to your club coaches to review, and make sure that you're CCing Coach Lee on there so that he can give it a once over, make sure that you're checking those boxes, that things look right, and then we can move it on from there. Again, let us know when you make that final decision. And then extra information if you need. I have all of our emails on there. Feel free to reach out anytime with questions. These are the three of us are the Ohio coaches, and we are happy to help out and oversee any of the regional ones as well. And then just put on here for you guys, these are all the schools that we've had commits to over the years, that we're very proud of. A ton of Division I schools and players that we have out there, and D2 schools, and as well as great D3 schools. So there's never a right recipe. I think, again, it just goes back to that gut feeling and where you fit in best. So don't get stuck up on or hung up on whether it's a D1, D2, or D3 school. You go with what is the best fit for you. Coach Lee, you got anything else there?
The one thing I'd like to backtrack is when Coach Kelly was talking about asking questions to a college coach. I always, the boys that I talk to, when we discuss having at least one pocket question to ask is, if I'm going to give 4 years to you, what in return will I receive as far as being a graduate of your university? How are you going to be able to help me get a job, an internship? Put it back on them. What will they provide you? You're going to give them 4 years of playing on the field, but we want to find out what they can do for you as well. I talk about getting off mom and dad's payroll. I say that all the time. You're going to go to school for 4 years. Mom and dad are probably going to be paying the majority of the bill. Even if you do get a scholarship, it's not like football, basketball, or the big time sports. You're probably getting about 20% of tuition. So mom and dad are still paying out of pocket. We're going to want to get the degree, get the job that you want or need. And, hopefully that school can help you as far as being a student athlete. What are they going to provide for you at the end of 4 years? So that's usually my go-to question for you guys.
So that was about all we had for the presentation. I try to keep it quick and concise for each. Like I said, we're going to have information that I will be emailing out to everybody tomorrow that will help sum this up, and also an opportunity to see this recording. But if anyone has questions, feel free. There's a little chat bar there at the bottom. Feel free to type a question, and Coach Lee and I will answer it. Or you have the ability to unmute yourself if you click unmute, and feel free to ask a question to the group, or if there's something that you'd like brought up, feel free to bring it up.
Email's good too.
All right, well, that's good. That says that we covered everything. So I guess if you guys have questions, feel free to email us. Like I said, I will send out stuff tomorrow, and that might be a great opportunity to review that. And if you have additional questions, feel free to respond to that, and I'll make sure that we get the appropriate answer for you. But thanks for checking in, guys, and continue hard work out there behind the scenes. We look forward to seeing everybody soon.
Bye, boys.